Hi all, it easy here. I hope you all doing well. I just was started with say thanks for all the support for 2023 and I wishes everybody the best going forward in 2024. Now let's look at a very cool aircraft. Please don't forget to like and comment and share and sub. Link to Discord and Patreon are in the link. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed the video. The Bell YFM-1 Airacudai was an American heavy fighter aircraft, developed by the Bell Aircraft Corporation during the mid-1930s. It was the first military aircraft produced by Bell. Originally designated the Bell Model 1, the Airacudai first flew on the 1st of September 1937. The Airacudai was marked by bold design advances and considerable flaws that eventually grounded the aircraft. The Airacudai was Bell Aircraft's answer for a bomber-destroyer aircraft. Although it did see limited production, and one fully operational squadron was eventually formed, only one prototype and 12 production models were ultimately built, in 3 slightly different versions. Design and development. Bell FM-1 mock-up at Langley Wind Tunnel. In an effort to break into the aviation business, Bell Aircraft created a unique fighter concept touted to be a mobile anti-aircraft platform, 2, as well as a convoy fighter. 3, created to intercept enemy bombers at distances beyond the range of single-seat fighter interceptors, the YFM-1, Y, service. Test, F, fighter, M, multiplace, was an innovative design incorporating many features never before seen in a military aircraft, as well as several never seen again. Using a streamlined, futuristic design, the Bell Airacudai appeared to be unlike any other fighters up to that time. 4. According to Major Alexander Dostoevsky's 1942 book, Victory Through Air Power, the Bell Airacudai represents a great engineering achievement. But its designation as convoy fighter is erroneous, since that requires different disposition of armament. With its maximum firepower directed forward, it really offers a preview of an effective long-range interceptor fighter. 3. A forward-firing 37mm, 1.46 in, M4 cannon with an accompanying gunner was mounted in a forward compartment of each of the 2 engine nacelles. Although capable of aiming the cannons, the gunner's primary purpose was simply to load them with the 110 rounds of ammunition stored in each nacelle. The crew of 5 included the pilot and gunners, a co-pilot/navigator who doubled as a fire control officer, using a Sperry Instruments thermionic fire control system, originally developed for anti-aircraft cannon, combined with a gyro-stabilized and an optical sight to aim the weapons, and radio operator/gunner armed with a pair of machine guns stationed at mid-fuselage waist blisters for defense against attack from the rear. An unusual feature of the Airacudai was the main door for entry. The door was opened and pulled down and hinges folded in on 3 steps for the crew to climb into the aircraft. Design flaws. Bell YFM-1 during testing. The Airacudai was plagued with problems from the start. The lofty performance estimates were unobtainable as, despite its sleek looks, the Airacudai was heavy and was slower than most bombers. In the event of interception by enemy fighters, the Airacudai was not maneuverable enough to dogfight, while the meager 600 pounds, 270 kilograms, bomber load was of little use in the intended fighter-bomber role. Even the 37mm cannons were of less value than predicted. The cannons had a tendency to fill the gun nacelles with smoke when never fired and, additionally, fears persisted as to how the gunners would escape in an emergency, with the propellers directly behind them. An emergency bailout would have required both propellers to be feathered, too, though additional provision was made with the use of explosive bolts on the propellers to jettison them in the event of a bailout. As with other types, armed with the 37mm M4, the low muzzle velocity of the weapon made it difficult to use as an aerial weapon, limiting the useful range. The Allison V1710-41 engines, though relatively trouble-free in other types, had insufficient cooling. 2, like many pusher designs, they were prone to overheating while on the ground, since there was no prop wash blowing over the engines to cool them. On the ground, the aircraft had to be towed to and from the runway and could only be started when the Airacudai was able to take off immediately. Even in the air, overheating was not uncommon. Although designed for turbo supercharging, The first flights were made with V1710 9 single-stage supercharged engines that only delivered 1,000 horsepower, 750 kilowatts, each. Despite the 5 feet, 1.5 meters long shaft extensions, there were no problems with this feature. When the turbos were fitted to the later YFM-1, they were plagued by cranky turbo regulators that backfired continuously. An explosion during a September 1939 test flight made it apparent that the teething engine troubles would not be solved easily. Marshall Wainwright notes that other sources indicate the first 8 aircraft were to originally have been powered by Allison V1710-13 engines fitted with GE Type B6 turbo superchargers, turbochargers. These aircraft were eventually delivered with improved V1710-23 D2 engines. Wainwright further states that 2 of the YFM-1 airframes were changed on the production line to accept the V1710-41 without turbo supercharging, becoming YFM-1Bs. This is noted in a contract change dated the 19th of October 1939, which shows that aircraft 38-489 and 38-490 had their turbos, all associated ducting, and controls removed, and V1710-41 D2A altitude-rated engines installed instead. The D2A was essentially a -23 with higher supercharger gear ratios, 8.77 to 1 versus 6.23 to 1, which allowed the motor to develop around 1,090 horsepower, 810 kilowatts, up to 13,200 feet, 4,000 meters, ASL. They used the same ratings and components as the altitude-rated V1710-33 C-15 Allison fitted to the original Curtiss XP-40. Allison was paid $1,690 to modify each engine. Initial flight testing by Lieutenant Ben Kelsey proved the Airacudai virtually impossible to control with only one engine, as the aircraft would go into an immediate spin. Problems with stability and pitch were also encountered and had to be corrected by reducing power. 5. Test pilot Eric Schilling described his experiences in a later book, Destiny, A Flying Tiger's Rendezvous with Fate as flying the Bell Airacudai was a new experience for me, since it was the first pusher aircraft I'd ever flown. Its handling characteristics were foreign to anything I had ever had my hands on. Under power it was unstable in pitch, but stable with power off. While flying straight and level, if a correction in pitch was required, a forward push on the control resulted in the airplane wanting to pitch over even more. Pitch control became a matter of continually jockeying the controls, however slightly, even when the aircraft was in proper trim. The same applied if pulling back on the control. It would tend to continue pitching up, requiring an immediate corrective response. The same happened in a turn with power off, the Bell became stable in pitch. This was fortunate because during approach and landing, it was very stable, and a nice flying airplane. The Airacudai was also saddled with a complex and temperamental electrical system and was the only aircraft ever built to rely on an independent auxiliary power unit, APU, to power both engine fuel pumps, as well as all aircraft electrical systems. 9. Systems usually powered by an aircraft's engines were instead powered by the single generator. The generator, with its own supercharger, was located in the belly of the aircraft. In the event of a failure, and they occurred frequently, the crew was instructed to begin immediate emergency restart procedures as the aircraft basically shut down. When the APU failed, the pilot had no fuel pressure, no vacuum, no hydraulic pressure, no gear, no flaps and no engines. Despite these problems, one fully operational Airacudai squadron was eventually assembled, and operated from 1938 until 1940. Funds were appropriated, but never released, for the purchase of 2 groups of Airacudais. 5. Continuing problems gave the aircraft a reputation as hangar queens. 11. Near the end of the type's operational life, the aircraft were flown primarily for photo opportunities and always accompanied by a chase plane for safety. Eventually the decision was made to disperse the aircraft to various airfields to give pilots an opportunity to add the unusual aircraft to their logbooks. Airacudais were sent at various times to Langley Field, Virginia, Maxwell Field, Alabama, Hamilton Field, California, and Wright Field, in Dayton, Ohio. YFM-1 38-488 was displayed at the 1940 World's Fair in New York, finished in the markings of the 27th Pursuit Squadron. During this time, the aircraft saw limited flight time, as few pilots were interested in flying the unusual aircraft. Several plans were made to modify the Airacudais to give them operational status, including modifying the airframe and adding more powerful engines, but all proposals were eventually rejected. In early 1942, despite fears of enemy bomber attacks against which the Airacudai was intended, the aircraft was stricken from inventory. General characteristics: crew, 5, pilot, co-pilot/navigator, radio operator/gunner, 2 gunners, length, 44 feet 10 in, 13.67 meters, wingspan, 69 feet 10 in, 21.29 meters, height, 13 feet 7 in, 4.14 meters, wing area, 684 square feet, 63.5 square meters, airfoil, NACA 23018/NACA 23009. Empty weight, 13,376 pounds, 6,067 kilograms, gross weight, 17,333 pounds, 7,862 kilograms, max takeoff weight, 21,625 pounds, 9,809 kilograms, fuel capacity, 400 US gal, 1,500 liters, power plant, 2 times Allison V1710 9 liquid-cooled turbo-supercharged V12, 1,090 horsepower, 810 kilowatts, each propellers, 3-bladed. Performance: maximum speed, 277 miles per hour, 446 kilometers per hour, 241 knots. Cruise speed, 244 miles per hour, 393 kilometers per hour, 212 knots. Range, 2,600 miles, 4,200 kilometers, 2,300 nautical miles. Service ceiling, 30,500 feet, 9,300 meters. Rate of climb, 1,480 feet per minute, 7.5 meters per second. Armament guns, 2 times 37 millimeters, 1.46 in, M4 cannons, 110 RPG, 2 times .30 in, 7.62 millimeters, M1919 Browning machine guns in front of nacelles, 2 times .50 in, 12.7 millimeters, M2 Browning machine guns, 600 RPG, inside blisters bombs, 20 times 30 pounds, 14 kilograms, fragmentation bombs in wing bays. See also